I left my husband 1.5 years ago and I think it's the biggest mistake of my life. In November 2023, I, F27, left my husband, M27. I was postpartum and we had a 4-month-old baby. My husband was my absolute best friend, but we had issues. For almost the entire relationship I begged him to treat me better. He was a great partner, teammate, and lover, let's say 80% of the time. Literally each other's ride or die, as loyal as can be, zero trust issues, did everything together, talked all day long even while at work, spent every ounce of free time with one another, etc. His one flaw? His temper. That's the other 20% of the time. Just would occasionally be snappy in a way that wasn't terrible, but absolutely shifted the energy in the room for the worst. And then worst case scenario, he'd get aggressive with me. About 8 times in the entire relationship he was physical. He never hurt me, or left bruises or marks. He has really bad PTSD from 3 tours in Iraq. When we would fight, I would say things like, I know I deserve better, someone else would not treat me like this, in reference to how snappy he would be, some of the mean things he'd say, and of course in reference to the physical instances. And he'd see red. He'd try to block me in whatever room we were in that I wanted to leave, would shove me in whatever direction he wanted, would grab my wrists to move me, and a couple times put his hands around my neck but never squeezed or cut off oxygen or anything. Nothing ever hurt. I'm not making excuses, just want the full picture to be painted. I did not at all realize at the time that these instances were always in response to me conceptualizing the idea of another man having me. Had I picked up on that, I wouldn't have continued doing something that I knew was such a trigger. Again, not condoning his behavior, but I in no way intentionally provoked him. Nor did I ever respond to violence with violence as some relationships do experience. I would shut down and collapse and just cry. He'd immediately be remorseful and snap out of his anger and would hold me. This was 8 or so times over the course of 3 years total. This really started to break my heart once I got pregnant and learned she was a girl. It got me constantly thinking, would I want her settling for this kind of love? And that just got more extreme after she was born. My heart was full of so much love for her, and this overwhelming responsibility to set a good example for her, and the first step was being the kind of woman that would not tolerate abuse. So I sat my husband down and demanded change. This was not the first conversation like this, but this is the first time I ever referenced divorce. And I meant it. I begged him to seek therapy and serious help so that he could be the husband I deserved, and the kind of man we hoped our daughter would bring home one day. Of course he promised to. Nothing physical directly happened to me, but he was getting worse in terms of his snappiness and rudeness, and did break things in his anger. And I'd reached my wit's end. I left and moved in with my girlfriend. Within 2 months, I had my own place and was dating someone I'd met through work. My ex-husband had began working on himself and was relentlessly chasing me, the same way he did when I finally let him take me on our first date when we fell in love in one amazing night. He was in therapy, channeling all his energy into being a better person and better dad. Trying to earn me back. He begged me, please just take our separation to allow me to work on myself and let's not date others. I will be the man you need me to be, please just give me time. I will never stop loving you. And I had developed very quickly such strong intense feelings for my new boyfriend that I was just like, no. You had 3 years to change and you never did. It's too late. And just like that, I broke his heart. He tried for a long time. And what did I do? I drug his name through the mud, telling everyone he was abusive because I didn't want to be looked at as, oh, she left her perfectly fine marriage with a 4-month-old baby and now she's already in another relationship, so I intended to make sure the world know I was justified in my leaving. I flaunted my new relationship in front of him and all over social media, not really intentionally, I was just genuinely infatuated. I'm sure there's other things I did in the wake of our separation that further crushed him. Here we are a little over a year later. I moved across the state to be closer to my boyfriend. Who is no longer my boyfriend. He turned out to be the worst man I've ever met in my life. Everything my ex-husband did? This man doesn't even compare. I never thought a person so evil could exist. I don't need to go into detail. But he makes my ex look like a saint. The worst part? I'm 33 weeks pregnant with his son. Unplanned entirely, honestly. I was devastated when I first found out, and given how awful the relationship turned out to be, stayed devastated for most of the pregnancy. Life seemed really grim, but I am feeling a lot better. I'm really excited to meet my little boy, but terrified of the future. Because of who this man turned out to be, I'm about to move in with family where I'll be sharing an upstairs area with my now 19-month-old and newborn. It's a really blessed situation, and only temporary because I do have a good job. But will absolutely need my family members' help with the baby and having 2 under 2. But now here we are. I am grieving now, all at once, the loss of my recent boyfriend, and my husband, at the same time. And I'm ruminating and reminiscing bad. I have had recent deep talks with my ex-husband. I am so proud of the man he has become. He truly did go and work on himself. He is the strongest version of himself I've ever known. Finally confident in the way he should have always been. Has boundaries he lets no one cross. Manages his temper. Etc. We co-parent great and I see and talk to him often. It's like we're still best friends. And when shit hits the fan with my boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend, I ran to my ex-husband and he comforted me in the way only he can. And now I am realizing, I think leaving him is something I will regret forever. I think I am still in love with him. While I was briefly infatuated with my boyfriend, I always compared certain things to my ex. He was never him. He was better than him in some ways, at first, but there was still a component in the relationship that was always missing, and he knew it. He called me out for missing my ex and I always denied it because I truly didn't see it. But he did. I do miss my ex-husband. And now knowing he's changed, he is my dreamboat. Not to mention the man I started a family with and have a daughter with. At every exchange of our daughter I think this was my family that I threw away and for what? Look at where it got me. Abused worse than I ever thought possible. Abandoned in pregnancy. Single mom to 2 under 2. I've had extensive talks with my ex-husband. He knows how I feel. He is still in love with me too. But like I said, this time he's strong. He said I hurt him too bad and he's not sure he could ever give me his heart again. And he's not sure he could ever raise the baby that isn't his. I appreciate his honesty. But there is no denying what we meant each other and what we will always mean to one another. The love that is very much still there. I've told him that down the road, when it makes more sense and my son is older and I've had time to grieve and heal and work on myself as a woman and mother, I will pursue him to no end and will do whatever it takes to be his wife again. He didn't tell me no, but did tell me good luck. We kinda joke about it now. But I weep in bed every night yearning for my marriage back. I would give anything to rewind time and make a different choice. There aren't words to describe this pain.